A month in the books. I'm not going to get on here and spout some hyperbole. Is this the worst it could have been? Could things possibly get any worse? Yeah. I'm seeing what's happening right now in Chicago. Things could get worse. Absolutely. Having said that, 2 games below 500 to wrap up the first month. I'm not saying too many glowing things unless it's about a certain pitching prospect or two. Zach, what do you think?
I feel like I said a week ago and 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago that it was much easier to pinpoint what was wrong with the Guardians than what was right, even when the record was better than it is now. I think now we're seeing why. Because that stuff is still pestering them. It's weird. It's every little mistake they make comes at the worst possible time. Every decision that backfires is a decision that you notice. There's no decision made in like the 5th inning that doesn't come back to haunt them. It's weird. They're playing a weird style of baseball right now, and I'm caught in between trying to decide if they're just an average team, a blah team, or if it's all going to come together and they just have to get through this rough stretch. I don't know. Where are you?
Yeah. You say it's a weird brand of baseball. I'll just say it's a bad brand of baseball. It's a not so fun brand of baseball, at least compared to the expectations we had, the way this team played, reaching the postseason, raising our expectation level. It comes along with the territory. You now are expected to be better than a 2-game below 500 team through the first month of the season. Now, of course, we know it's long, lengthy, it's early. Let's get all that crap out of here, okay? Can we just have a conversation among friends? We all realize all of the little caveats and things. Yes, all on the table, whatever. But let's express what we're actually feeling in the moment. That's the whole reason why we do this show. We tell people we don't want to tell them how to feel, but we'll be honest with the way that we view things. If you want to join us on our side of the fence, or in some cases, ride the fence with Zach, cool, whatever. But, sorry, I've been holding that one. I was waiting for the opportune time to unload that one. If the team's not playing well, let's call it for what it is. They're not playing well. This is not the way that they left us believing that they could play. And despite the fact that maybe things do get better, maybe the offense does get more consistent, maybe superstar players do play more like star players, and the starting pitching is settled once guys are healthy and rookies are into the rotation consistently, and guys that shouldn't be getting starts or innings are kicked to the curb. Hey, fine. But let's talk about what's happening right now. And right now, I'm concerned with a team that's just not capable, this recent stretch would indicate, of playing very good baseball consistently.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm struggling to evaluate and project is because it's so many little things that I think are just compounding. When you take Emmanuel Clase not quite being right, and you take James Karinchak not quite being right, and you take Mike Zunino not being able to, like, the one little thing he can't do, I guess little, doesn't seem little when it happens in a key situation of blocking balls, and you take Ahmed Rosario struggling, but of course he has to be hitting in the 2 spot, and so it seems like anytime he hits into a double play, it's just a killer because
it's
happening in the first inning. It's just there's not one big obvious thing plaguing them. It's a lot of little things, and I think it makes it difficult. I don't know what I'm watching. I mean, I think if you zoom out and you just said, okay, a weekend series at Fenway, you won Friday night, and it was like they played really well. They pitched well. They hit well. They did a great job working pitch counts and delivering key hits when they needed them. And Bieber looked great. Bullpen shut it down at the end. Done. Looked great. And then Sunday, like, they hung in there for a while, and then it was just a game they lost. They lost, whatever. So 1-1, and then the middle game, I mean, you had the lead in the 10th inning with your closer on the mound. I don't care, regardless of how Plesac pitched, regardless of how maybe you didn't cash in on some early opportunities, and then you roared back late. Like, basically what I'm saying is, like, that series in a vacuum, wouldn't think much of it, right? You won one, you lost one, and then there's a coin flip game, and those coin flip games, you're just not winning right now. Not a big deal. The reason why this team is confounding to me is I can't get over the stretch they just went through. Because I thought they looked fine this weekend. I look at this weekend and I say, look, Bieber pitched great. Logan Allen I thought looked really good until just a batshit BABIP inning. And again, Saturday, the offense was great, and you just, I don't know, little things like, again, Clase is going to succumb to that stuff too. Even if he's not quite his sharpest, he's going to give up weird contact, whatever. But the fact that you looked lifeless against shitty team after shitty team for a 2-week stretch there, that's where I'm like, I just don't quite know what we have. And I think there needs to be some more turnover with the roster. There needs to be some different sort of decision making, and maybe then I can get a better grasp for what type of team this is. But like, the schedule is not going to be forgiving to you either. So you sort of cornered yourself here into really having to rise to the occasion early.
Yeah, and it is the case with this team year after year, season after season, slow starts in the first month. But I thought you were 100% correct when you said just because it happens every year doesn't mean you have to excuse it or say that it's cool. We always made the joke in 2017 when they weren't playing well. I heard it all the time. Well, there's no giant winning streak coming like they had in 2016 to right the ship. Little did we know, it was actually on the way. But you can't count on those things, and in the moment, I can't just say, oh, well, it's fine because every year they start slow. Well, that was every year up to this year. You certainly wouldn't have said, well, every year, great, these young players come up and have this great success like they do in 20. No, because we hadn't seen what happened in 2022 to that point yet. And then they accomplished what they did. They got hot down the stretch. They made the playoffs, raised all of our expectations for this team. So this is a new year. Just because those things happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. And we can talk about the division. The division's not the goal. That's not the point. I said this the other day. I mean, you can say, hey, at least they're in the Central, good place to be. Like, yeah, that's fine. But that's not, like, don't even bother looking at the AL Central standings until September 1st. Because that's, one, the goal isn't to win the division. The goal is to at least advance farther than you did in the playoffs last year. I keep saying it, framing it this way. The goal is to enter the prime part of the season feeling like, you know what? It is possible that this could be the year they snap that 75-year drought. Certainly don't feel like that is the case at the moment. But because of that, like, sure, they could win 85 games and win the division and edge out the Twins and get hot at the right time. But that can't be the formula. Not right now. So what is the path to getting there? I think that's what we keep coming back to. And, Logan Allen on Sunday, I think, sort of shed some light on that, where I don't think it's going to be Zach Plesac rounding into form and carrying you to October, but maybe it's the kids.
And they followed that formula very well last year, and I'm eager for more of it. More Logan Allen, yeah. Tanner Bibee, not running from that. He gets more opportunities. This team is in a position where they can't be worried about hurting people's feelings or even what somebody did up to this very point. Is there somebody else that is earning it more than another person that's struggling? Then why are we even having this conversation? There should be no debate. When Tanner Bibee pitches the way that he does in his first start, there should not be a single word uttered that tells you he should not get another start at the major league level. And if anybody says that, slap him in the face and shut him up. Because there's no argument against him getting another opportunity when other guys aren't performing or aren't healthy, and the chance for him to shine is there. So run with it. And I'm glad that he's stuck with the team and he's going to get another opportunity. That's great. We'll see what they do with the rest of this rotation as guys come back and get more healthy. But as they laid the foundation for last year, it needs to continue. You get a chance and you earn more of them just by the way that you perform. And if somebody else is not performing, I don't care if it's Zach Plesac and he was expected to be a member of this rotation, and way back in 2020 he looked like he was on his way to being a mainstay. I don't care about that right now, because right now I look at his statistics, he's terrible. I look at his stuff, it's awful. You look at Stuff Plus, we were mentioning that on the Patreon show, worst on the team in Stuff Plus. It's small sample size, whatever, but it just adds to the list of things that I do not believe in at this very moment. So when the chance comes for somebody else to get an opportunity, like Xavier Curry, that dude, to me, has earned more of an opportunity because he's helped you out. So I think he should be starting a ball game here in the very near future. I think he has earned that. And Plesac, sorry. You want to get yourself back into good graces? Then pitch better. Pitch better, and you know what? Because of the nature of 162 games, if you're performing, you're going to get more chances. And who knows, you could be back in the rotation. And I'm speaking like he's already out of the rotation now. But it needs to be about earning the chances that you get and then continuously going to the guys that are doing the most with those chances.
Yeah, so I mean, they can. Well, let's do this. First of all, thank you for listening to the Selby's Godcast and listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and watching us on YouTube. Go subscribe to the Patreon show. That's where you can get the link to our Discord, which never stops, and it's a beautiful thing.
I'm tearing up. I've taught you well.
I have 5 questions for you. Do you have 5 answers for me? And you can act all surprised answer. Like you didn't know this was coming, but for the first time in 6 years, we did some show prep.
You can say you did show prep, but sending me the questions is only half of the prep. I then have to open the text and read them and think about them. And I did. I opened it. I looked at them, but I didn't want to think too much into it because I wanted my reactions to be more genuine. That's the way we like this show to be, not too scripted.
All right. Question 1.
Okay.
On the heels of what we were just talking about, they can get a little creative, might not be the right word, but they have some flexibility here. With an off day Thursday, and with like 15 number 5 starters on the roster, they can do a bunch of different things here as they assemble their rotation moving forward. Now, it'll be Cal Quantrill Monday in New York. It'll be Tanner Bibee versus Garrett Cole Tuesday in New York. We'll get to that in a minute. And it'll be Shane Bieber on Wednesday in New York. Thursday's an off day. So what do they do after that? I would think Logan Allen will pitch Friday or Saturday, but they'll need someone else later on in the homestand. What are you doing? Are you sticking with Plesac? Sure didn't sound like it after you just treated him like you were a disappointed father. You going with Curry? Battenfield get another chance? Who's going to the bullpen? Who's going to Columbus? Who's just going?
Well, I wanted to give, and we did. We gave Battenfield love, and he deserved it when he first appeared. Things did not go so well in Boston for him. He's not really in the conversation to me, other than what they needed him to do in that game was just soak up some innings to keep the team on track for what lies ahead. When you're going to New York, you're already thinking about what's my pitching plan going to look like. So that I don't think anything beyond more than that. I do believe Xavier Curry has earned a chance to start, don't you? Is that a crazy thought that he should start a game?
No. He's probably the best option. I mean, I'm kind of biding my time for Gavin Williams, and I hate to always be looking down below, but I'm just, he's the next guy. Like I can't ever, and whenever he's starting for Columbus, like I got to watch every pitch. I got to pull up Baseball Savant and see what the velocity's at. And I'm just counting down. I mean, Bibee was in Columbus for 5 minutes. Allen's already been there 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Or Williams.
It's It's not going to take much. What, 2 or 3 starts might be it? And then you might be saying, yeah, that's it. That's all I need to see. Okay, the way that I was thinking about this question is let's put everyone into a tier or a bucket here. Bieber, obviously, you're not touching that. He is what he is. Logan Allen has now emerged into going to stay right where he is territory. And right now, until something suggests otherwise, Tanner Bibee is in that mold for me now. So those 3, you're set. Let's move on. Where do you put Curry and Plesac in that tier? That was what I was trying to think. Do you rank just based on a few innings here and there? Curry above Plesac? Are they willing to, based on this real rough start for him to the season, put Plesac somewhere else? Do they worry, how does he handle a move like that? Does it matter? Things are all things I'm considering. It's also tough to make too many moves based on, well, this guy should be back here, and let's hold off on that until they're actually back. Until we're actually, I can't be thinking about, well, where does Triston slide in here? Where does Savali slide in here? Well, to me, they're not even part of this mix yet. So,
no, I mean, McKenzie, the team said, and believe me, I know everyone thinks that their team's medical staff stinks. The Guardians will tell you that they think their medical staff is a competitive advantage. I failed at dissecting a worm in biology freshman year of high school. Okay, so I am not one to provide commentary
major.
on this.
Well, okay.
But I will say, Triston McKenzie, they said when they were analyzing this before they put him on the 60-day injured list, they said the target date for him would have been May 26th. And by putting him on the 60-day injured list, he's now eligible to come off May 29th. I know nothing. He's already throwing bullpens, and he's been around the team every day on every road trip. He has been playing basketball on the mini hoop in the corner of the clubhouse for lots of money and losing to Miles Straw, and is just constantly, you know him, his goofy, happy-go-lucky self, always in a great mood, always has so much energy and just wants to be active. And he looks like the least injured player on the injured list I've ever seen, aside from, was it Cody Anderson who said they told me my back hurts, so my back hurts?
Yeah.
So point is, I would think, and I don't know, and they're not going to lay out the full timeline yet, but how it works is you throw bullpens, you throw more and more pitches, and then you go start a rehab assignment, and you throw 2 innings, and then you throw 3 innings, and then you throw 5 innings, and then you're back. I would think he would be back, if not on Memorial Day, then very soon after. And I'm not trying to... Hammy had a weird comment on the radio over the weekend saying, the media's been asking nonstop about Triston McKenzie, and folks, Triston McKenzie's not coming back for at least a month. I really don't think we've asked very much more than any normal injured player, just trying to get updates on his progress. But point is, I agree with you. When these guys are back, you'll fit them in and you'll figure it out. But I do think just because this has been a revolving door at the back of the rotation, and you had Gaddis and you had Battenfield and Plesac and maybe Curry now, there is an end in sight. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you have to keep in mind, because if you go to Curry and then Curry just implodes 2 starts in a row or 3 starts in a row, are you going to go right back to Plesac? You're going to go to Battenfield? I don't know. But the good thing is you can make a decision like that. You can make a decision like that now, knowing, I think, Triston's probably only 4 weeks away. And because you can skip the 5th spot in the rotation this coming week, you're really only looking for 3-4 starts out of somebody. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I'm not worried about, what's it going to do to this guy's development? Or no. Curry, Plesac, Gaddis, none of those guys I'm like, oh, my God. What's the best for getting the most out of them 3 years? No. Who's going to help me win a game? And I have more faith in Xavier Curry helping me win a game right now than I do Zach Plesac. And maybe a kick to the bullpen would be fantastic for him. Maybe it would allow him to focus on the things that he does well. Maybe he sticks there. Hell, we were theorizing that was going to be his landing spot way back in 2019. Were we not? So maybe it's a natural thing with him. Or maybe he goes all Carlos Carrasco on everybody, rediscovers himself, finds something within himself, and comes back and pitches like he did for parts of 2020.
Could be.
But he's going to have to earn his way back into those good graces. To me, that's the way I feel about it. It's the same way this whole team. You could look at this entire team. I have a prove-it sort of attitude toward this team because there's just so much that was unproven going into this season. We felt good about certain things. But when anyone would say, well, what's the outlook for this team? And I would say, I don't know. There's just so many different ways this can go when you're talking about guys that don't have super long track records. Well, Plesac does, and what has the majority of his track record suggested to us? More of a, gotta continue to give this guy opportunities, or make him earn it. I'm not saying DFA him. I'm not saying get rid of him forever, but make him earn his way back in.
I mean, this is not on our list of questions here, but I feel the same way about right field. I think we're at the point in the season, I even said this maybe 2 weeks ago, ride the hot hand. And I know neither hand is hot, but Brennan's closer to lukewarm than Oscar Gonzalez is. I would just let him go. Because I think you have to give somebody consistent at-bats, one of those guys, so that they can prove that they're going to take it and run with it or not. And Gonzalez's profile is just not working right now. And I understand the power threat, and I understand, I mean, you could throw him in there against certain lefties, fine. But I really think Brennan needs the bulk of the playing time out there, because this lineup right now, like, yes, power's an issue. They've got to find ways to hit for more power eventually, and maybe you address that in July too. But first, just get guys hitting. Get guys who can hit. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I wrote it on Friday. Gonzalez's chase rate last year, first percentile. If you asked him or anybody, all the coaches or anything, all offseason, all spring training, what's like one metric he needs to improve? That's it. Guess where he's at? First percentile.
More than anyone, I think that dude could use some success. Could use a confidence boost. And I don't want to give up on someone like that. We said that on Patreon. I think the best of what Oscar Gonzalez can bring beats the best of maybe what Will Brennan can bring. But the wild fluctuations in between, Brennan's like sitting here closer to the middle of the spectrum at all times. Gonzalez is like way riding that wild roller coaster. But I mean, I don't see a guy that is doing a lot of things drastically different. There are some things in his approach that could be better, but I think he's just not swinging it with authority and confidence. I'm sure there are times where he's stuck in between. And if you're going to tell me the best thing to get him back to being 2022 Oscar Gonzalez is a trip to AAA to go beat up on some 4A pitching, I'll listen to that. Mm-hmm. I'll listen to that. But I agree with you. Commit to somebody and just give them a runway into some consistent playing time so somebody can get into something that resembles a routine of some sort. Like Brennan, he hits the home run and then he's not in the lineup the next day. I get it, and I know who you're facing, but it'd be nice to just get somebody some momentum going here. Anyway, let's go to question number 2.
Question 2. Whose stock?
We didn't answer question 1, by the way. What do we do?
I don't think you're going to answer any of these. Whose stock are you buying more of in 2023? Do you know how stocks work?
I've been informed. I think you have more of a background in this, don't you? Tell me about all the things you were successful at
I do have an
in
economics
college.
degree somewhere.
Here it is.
Laying down. Logan Allen or Tanner Bibee?
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to go Logan Allen.
Because
it was a tough choice, but because I just watched him pitch, it's the freshest thing in my mind. If you would have asked me after their most recent turn through the rotation, it would have been Bibee because I just watched that guy. No, I wonder with a guy like Bibee, he had to get significantly better in it from a skills department, throwing harder, really had to stretch that development to get to the major league level. Not even saying that he wouldn't have reached it before, but to be someone that's a top prospect, really had to develop his skills. So I wonder, how close is he to his ceiling already? Has he maximized all that he can be? And with Logan Allen, does he have more of a ceiling to get to? I don't know. Are my kids killing each other? Also, I don't know. You have that to look forward to. I'm gonna go with Logan Allen. And the early readout on their stuff, Logan Allen has gotten a little bit better results in just early stuff. But we're having the conversation. Doesn't Logan Allen already exhibit veteran lefty energy? Doesn't he already? He just has whatever that is. He has that
poise. A little bit of like fearlessness. Like he doesn't seem bothered if maybe a pitch doesn't go his way, if someone bloops something in, and there's just like it's like comforting to watch. It's like you want that guy.
Yeah.
You want that guy driving the car that you're in through a blizzard. Like you feel safe with him at the wheel.
Did you see his reaction to the blooper down the left field line? It was almost like well, that'll happen kind of a reaction compared to Plesac. God, this has just been a beat up Plesac episode. I kind of feel bad about that, but whatever. Every time he gives up hard contact, it's like, what was I supposed to do? And it's hardly ever like it looks like, yeah, I made a bad pitch there. It's always like the world is crumbling around him, as opposed to Logan Allen, who's just like, all right, well, that sucks. On to the next thing.
So you went with Allen?
I'm going Allen. I don't know that
sweeper is nasty, by the way.
It was.
So what you described, I sort of feel the opposite. I feel like Allen is he's the higher floor, maybe the safer bet, but Bibee is so intriguing. And again, this is the tiniest of sample sizes. And Bibee's going to go from facing the Rockies at home in Cleveland in front of a small gathering to Yankee Stadium against Gerrit Cole. Now, I don't know that he'll have Judge in the lineup, but might have Jake Bauers.
Right? He just got hurt. Didn't he crash into the wall or something?
But it's a little bit of a different circumstance.
Thank goodness.
But the Bibee didn't have any fastball command the other day, so I'm just so intrigued as to what he looks like when everything's clicking on a certain day. His slider also super nasty. The changeup, I mean, that's like both guys are they're exactly what you want when you're leaning on a rookie pitcher. Neither seemed phased by the moment, the situation. Both have things they can rely on when maybe something's a little off. You know what? This is maybe under the radar. Credit to Cam Gallagher, who has sort of guided these kids. I think done a really good job of it. But I'll just disagree with you to disagree with you. I'll go Bibee. I think the ceiling, just like the pure, I know where Allen ranks in Stuff Plus and whatnot, but I feel like there's more with Bibee. I feel like...
No, it's fair.
I feel like Allen's going to be steady. I feel like Bibee could have some starts where it's just bananas. I don't know. And maybe I'm totally wrong. I barely know these kids.
There's something about Allen that I think how good he isn't fully captured by when you watch him. That if you actually look at the stuff, the metrics, and even hitters' reactions, it would suggest something that maybe if you were just watching him throw in a bullpen, it wouldn't be apparent. I don't know. I'm going to need more time to just see this as the year unfolds, whether that's a correct gut feeling or not. But it just seems to me like a guy that other teams would face him, and other fan bases would say, why can't they get to this guy? He's not throwing 97. Why can't they square him up? And yet, he's getting swings and misses. He's striking out 7-8 guys every single outing. As you put it, playoff start, you look up, this guy went 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, struck out 7, walked 1. Just your old veteran lefty performance that we've seen so often.
Yeah, I couldn't put my finger on who. It's like not quite Andy Pettitte, but just some like wily left-hander.
God, we're so ridiculous. He's made 2 starts, and we're like, is he more Andy Pettitte or Tom Glavine, or what do you think? This coming from the guy who said, well, we're not going to overreact after 1 start. All right, whatever.
Right. Question 3.
We're idiots.
I don't know what's going to happen with the lineup. I don't know how long Ahmed Rosario is going to hit second, but I wonder if that happens at some point, if instead of sticking Andres Jimenez up there or just moving up Jose Ramirez and everybody else, I have a weird feeling it's going to be Miles Straw. I don't know if it would go Straw Kwan or Kwan Straw, but would you accept that? Would you prefer a Kwan Straw combination atop the lineup instead of a Kwan Rosario combination?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Here's why I say that. Yes, for the short term, because Straw's been better than Rosario. Against lefties, by the way, I'm okay with Rosario hitting second,
Me too.
actually. In fact, maybe I encourage that. Here's the thing that makes Rosario so tough. When he is on fire, like he's prone to doing, he might be close. We just flipped the calendar to May, so who knows what might happen. He makes elements of this offense so much more dynamic and dangerous. And even more so, I think, hitting out of the 2 spot when there's just chaos. He is a chaos player. And sometimes it's a chaos in your favor. And the other team's scrambling with all the infield hits and stolen bases and first to thirds and first to homes and all these things that he can create. But he's also chaos when he's not hitting well and the guy's on first base and he just hit into another double play. Because that's the nature of the way that he hits. He hits a lot of ground balls. For now, I would be okay with that against right-handed pitching, but I don't think that's a long-term thing.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I think they're waiting for him, like you said. I mean, we've seen him get hot. But, I mean, let him start when he gets hot. Let him get hot from the 7-hole, and then eventually you can move him back up if he's back to his normal self. Even when he's not his normal self, he still probably is not the best option for the number 2 spot. I don't know why you can't just bump everybody else up. I mean, it doesn't you don't have to keep Jose in the 3-hole. You don't have to keep Bell in the 4. Like, even if Jimenez isn't quite where you want him to be, if there's not really an obvious answer, just bump everybody else up. You know what the Red Sox did on Sunday? They moved Yoshida down with a lefty on the mound. They didn't put someone else in the 2 spot. They didn't put Mike Freeman exactly in the lineup where the person Mike Freeman was replacing was hitting, like we saw so many times in 2019. They just bumped everybody up. Justin Turner hit second. What do you know? It's amazing. So I don't know. The lineup's weird. Straw's off to a good start. I think the way they want to play, you do want someone like Rosario. Like the running is key here. It seems like every time Kwan gets a gets on base to start a game, he's erased. And I don't know. I wonder what would change. I mean, Straw's been playing really well. And I also think he's so much better at working counts and seeing a lot of pitches and he's did a lot over the weekend. Rosario gets up there hacking, swings and fouls 2 pitches off that are out of the zone, and then watches a third strike go down the middle.
But that's the chaos I'm speaking to. Sometimes I actually kind of want a guy that just does some weird ambush shit and flusters a pitcher or keeps you on your toes, and that works when he's got his 3rd multi-hit game in the last 4 games and is doing all of those positive things. But the bad is awful, and getting that out of the 2 spot, I don't feel great about that. Now, I don't like Straw hitting in the 2nd spot either. I would
None
rather,
of this is ideal.
If you're gonna do that, I would rather Straw hit first and take advantage of the on base percentage, because you're not going to get. I guess you're not going to get any power from Kwon either, but maybe more of a chance of a double hitting in the 2 spot. And then is Tito going to want to move Kwon around? The reason why I would say I'm in favor of it, because that feels like a short-term thing. It wouldn't be we've got to commit to this for the rest of the year. And pulling the Band-Aid off of getting Rosario out of the 2 spot that would be all right. Then that would open up then we can make some other changes and, I don't know, go crazy. Carlos Santana hit leadoff for this team, so Josh Bell can't hit second? Imagine putting Bell in between Kwon and Ramirez, and now you've got 2 switch hitters there, and then Naylor after him.
Wouldn't you just rather go Ramirez 2, Bell 3?
I don't. They're like scared of Ramirez hitting second. I'm just trying to think of other things.
Will Mabrys Valoria hit at all?
Let's shake things up. Put Josh Bell in the 2 spot.
All right, you ready for
Then
question
Ramirez,
number 4?
Then Naylor. And we're on 4 now? Okay.
Sam Hentges' return is imminent. Without even seeing him pitch yet this year, where does the big lefty rank in your reliever circle of trust?
Put him up there first. He hasn't blown any saves yet this year.
He's looked great.
Do you remember strikeouts? Yeah. Those were fun. Do you remember strikeouts? You remember when Clase used to occasionally strike somebody out? His stuff numbers, tangent, have actually still been good despite the lack of velocity, and he just remains a fascinating case study in what the hell's happening with him. I would say, just because he hasn't thrown a major league pitch yet, I don't think you can put him above the other 3, but he could very easily get into that territory.
Clase, Stefan, and whom?
You still don't put Karinchak above him? Based on the fact that you just throw Hentges into big situations despite working his way slowly into the season?
What more does Eli Morgan have to do to break into that mix?
Eli, I'm not sure what to make of his season, because the surface numbers look good, and there are times where I really think some of the adjustments he's made to his arsenal have been real nice. But I don't know that I am like... I mean, certainly right now he's in the top 4. Hentges, the lefty. I don't know. I'm just anxious for him to be back.
You gonna answer the question?
I did, and you yelled at me and told me I was wrong, and then now I'm rethinking it.
All right, so 4th?
4th, I think.
Yeah, I'd probably go 3rd. And it wouldn't take long for him to move up to maybe even 2nd.
I mean, Trevor Stephan's not been the same Stephan as last year yet. I don't know if any of them have just really been, you got to trust that guy. Not yet. Not consistently. Does it
Yeah,
matter?
I feel like at
Couldn't this
times De Los
evolve in a couple of
Santos
weeks?
looks like a guy who deserves higher leverage. Morgan's done everything they've asked of him. Sandlin's been rough. There's not a lot of analysis here. It's always fluid with the bullpen. I think it's easy to look at what happened the last 4 months of last season and just assume that's the standard. And they have enough depth where if one guy's not going well, they can cover for it. But it's just been weird. And they play so many close games that someone gives something up and it's natural to just be frustrated with that when if that happened in a 5-2 game instead of a 5-4 game, you wouldn't think anything of it. And that guy wouldn't fall in your trust rankings. It's been a weird start.
Well, Morgan will be, as we watched more of this season, seeing how much more he trusts the slider that has been introduced a lot more to this point this year, and that makes him more of a lethal bullpen weapon in my mind. So he's not just fastball changeup, but another pitch moving horizontally. That could change. I just think where, I know it's a question and it's whatever, but where Hentges ranks among these, it's going to change based on a few outings. I think you let this thing just evolve into whatever it ends up becoming. Didn't that do that last year? Hasn't it done that every year since baseball's existed? Bullpens just evolve. I just want another talented arm, because we've seen this team run into some issues where they're putting somebody in a situation, whether it's Herron or somebody else, in a spot where they shouldn't be. And I would rather have Hentges in that spot or Eli Morgan in that spot.
Yeah.
And the overall
let me say this. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing Tim Herron in like 2-3 months. Just to see what he looks like the second time. No more surprises, no more firsts, no more. And with Hentges back, no more, we have no one else to turn to. Here, kid, good luck. In a 1-run game in the 8th inning. He's got great stuff. So I think the bullpen will be fine. Clase is very, very odd. You're right. And the thing that makes him so difficult to evaluate when he's not perfect is that he's susceptible. He's always been susceptible to just weird, fluky contact. We've said it so many times on this podcast where the formula for scratching across a run against him is little infield chopper that you beat into the ground and beat out for an infield single, then maybe a stolen base, and then an error, and then a little jam job that bloops over Ahmed Rosario's head for a RBI single. Like that's how they do it. And I feel like we've seen more of that this year. They wanted him, and it's a work in progress. When I was asking everybody just how does he improve, the thing that they said they were working on him with was just throwing more cutters up in the zone. And if he's throwing 98, 99 up in the zone, maybe you eliminate some of that weak contact and you just get more swing and miss. It's really hard to catch up to that because he's so good low in the zone, and he has so many called strikes, and then you drop the slider down below that cutter low in the zone, and that's when the slider's really, really lethal. But they figured if you can throw some cutters up, get guys to swing and miss at that, and even if you make contact, like you're popping that up to the catcher. And so we haven't seen him do that a lot yet. And, he just hasn't. And he's also working with the pitch clock. And you noted he had one of the slower tempos in baseball in the past. So I think there's just a lot going on. I still think he's going to get back pretty close to normal at some point, and he'll be fine. But it's just, you're right. He's tricky to assess when it's not perfect, and it's so noticeable and glaring when it's not perfect because he usually is.
And his level of not being perfect is giving up a few more seeing eye singles. Very rarely is it he comes in and double, triple, home run, double. It's very rare that somebody's just touching him up that way. It's just too much contact when you could have used a strikeout. This goes back a couple of years ago when they first introduced the extra inning rule, and you asked Tito about it. Is Karinchak the perfect guy to handle those extra inning scenarios because of all the strikeouts? Clase, he may be less ideal than some because he does allow a lot of contact. And so in some cases, it's just one flick of the wrist and the game's tied, and you get a blown save, and he didn't deserve a blown save on Saturday. That's not like he was awful, but that's all it takes in extra innings. And if you're not missing a ton of bats, you wonder about it. It's not a panic-inducing thing, but it's still a wonder.
All right. Question 5. Last one. This trip has the Guardians going to Fenway Park, then Yankee Stadium. In about 2 months, they'll head to Wrigley Field. Obviously, the Yankee Stadium is not the original Yankee Stadium, but those 3 ballparks, yay or nay? How do you feel about the old traditional standards? And if it's yay, or even if it's nay, rank them.
To what degree? I mean, are we just saying from a baseball fandom standpoint?
Take any... Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Wrigley third. I think Yankee Stadium second, Fenway first. So first of all, I like the uniqueness. I know Fenway Park is wonky. We saw it plenty. I thought one of the best, smartest plays of the season so far. And it is a little thing that ended up meaning nothing in the grand scheme. But the way Miles Straw played that ball that hit off the center field wall and pretended he was camping under a lazy fly ball just to deke the runner to keep him at third and not score, brilliant. And things like that you can do, the way you can play the ball off the monster, some of it's stupid and it feels very gimmicky. But as long as every ballpark isn't like that, I'm fine with it. And I think what they've done in Boston is preserve history and also modernize it in ways that Wrigley Field is not. Yankee Stadium is just very different now because everything is elite and overpriced and whatever. But Fenway Park, you walk or do a lap around that ballpark and you see so much history and so much cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And yet it's not inconvenient, if that makes sense. And obviously I'm also coming at it from a working standpoint. Wrigley's terrible. And the other two are pretty good to work in, but Yankee Stadium, I need to do a better job. I've never been to Monument Park. I actually, literally before I asked this question, I just put a note in my phone that says I need to make an effort to visit more of the ballpark this week. But I like the old standards, and I know I'm shitting on Wrigley, but there are aspects of Wrigley that are really cool too. I'm excited for the first game of that series. It's a Friday and it's a day game, and it's really inconvenient to those of us who have to fly out that morning and go straight to the ballpark. But there's something cool about that. I remember being a kid and coming home from school and the Cubs are on TV and it's they're playing a day game on a Wednesday and I'm sitting there.
Oh, it's fantastic.
My last period in algebra and I'm I can't wait to get home to watch Kevin
Grace and Sammy
pitch
Sosa
for the Cubs and Henry Rodriguez or Glenn Allen Hill hit home run. So there's a mystique there, but the main point in me asking this is my standpoint. My answer is yay to all 3 in the end because there is a mystique. There's an aura about it, and I think it's that kind of thing that feels special, that makes baseball special. When you think about the history and all of that, and while I love new ballparks and some of them are great, some of them aren't, some of them suck, and I like when I go to a city and the ballpark has personality.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of ballparks that I just could not stand. Oakland.
Guaranteed Rate Field, Globe Life, whatever it is. Zero personality.
I'm still shocked. I liked the old ballpark in Arlington. Going there, I remember, were you there the last year of it? It might have been the second to last. I just remember going in there and thinking, like, it's cool. It's fine. Like, what are we doing here? And I thought the inside of that had some personality too. And maybe it's just because we watched some big. That's what I think. Yeah, that ballpark, the old ballpark in Texas, old ballpark in Texas, had some good playoff moments in it. Maybe not if you're a Rangers fan, but it had some cool moments in that ballpark. So I liked that park, and it's kind of sad to see it go. I'm not a fan of the Miami ballpark. Walking into that one just does not feel like you're walking into a baseball stadium. Now, I get it. It's hot there, and you got to keep people cool, and you're trying to get people to the game. I understand all that, but I was just not. I went there for the All-Star game. It was not that great. I was not a big fan. I love the Twins Park. That's a fun one to walk into. But to get back to your question, Fenway is absolutely. It still has that mystique. It's a cathedral, no doubt about it. And Wrigley, not quite on the level of Boston, but going there and being there for the World Series, my God, was that awesome. And when you go there for the first time and you see the ivy on the wall, and we were walking around thinking about all of the people that have come through and stood exactly where you are, it still has that mystique, just not as much. And as you mentioned, working there is not fun at all. So that leaves just a little bit of a sour taste, I think. But I still greatly enjoyed working that World Series, being there at Wrigley. Just some great stories and great memories. The new Yankee Stadium, I am not a fan at all. Not at all. And normally, maybe I wonder if we're going to piss off some Yankee fans by saying these sorts of things on the show, but I don't know. Do Yankee fans also agree that the new park just does not hold the same oomph that the older one did? And some of it may be because of pricing tiers and who gets to sit close and who doesn't anymore. And maybe just some because the game has changed over the past 20, 30 years. I don't know. It seems like fake and plasticky. It's like trying to replicate the greatness of their old ballpark and the other great ballparks. But it just doesn't. It's kind of like. It's like eating fake hamburger. It's like, it might be okay. It's not quite a real hamburger. Is that a terrible analogy? I don't know.
Well, yeah. What are you eating instead?
I don't know. A tofu burger?
Yeah.
It's just a representation.
I'm with you. There are still cool elements, like when the bleacher creatures are doing their roll call. That's great.
But that's the fans more than the ballpark. That's a credit to the fans that are there.
Yeah.
Like you could do that anywhere. You could do that at somebody's backyard. I mean, it'd still be cool.
As stupid as the short porch is, it's still an element that's at Yankee Stadium and nowhere else. And I like little. I don't want things to be too gimmicky. I don't want it to be like, you're playing in your neighborhood, and if you happen to hit it onto Mr. Jones's roof, then that's a triple. Nothing like that. Like we don't
like Saint.
I'm not
Saint
a fan
Pete's.
of the catwalks in Tampa, for instance.
Yeah,
or the ridiculous amount of foul territory and possums in Oakland, but there are elements that are just cool and they're special and. Yeah, and basically I'm just bringing this up to say I get Yankees press dining this week.
Okay. Well, that wasn't factored in. We didn't talk about that being part of the equation here, so fairness to you. Thanks for listening to the show, by the way. This show brought to you in part by... You want to just handle all of the...
SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek. Get $20 off? 20%? Oh, crap.
Doll hairs? It's a lot of doll hairs. Yes, $20 off your first purchase by using the code SELBY. Download the SeatGeek app. We're into the season. I know people are looking for tickets, looking for great opportunities to get out, whether it's in Cleveland or other places, other events. Use that code SELBY, SELBY, and get yourself $20 off your first ticket purchase. Zach has done it. I know. It worked out okay, so we can confirm that it does indeed work. Thank you for listening. Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Click the like down there, the subscribe button. We do appreciate that. And, of course, we will be back later this week over at Patreon. What will the tenor of that show be?
Bibee Cole Tuesday.
I can't wait for that one. Have you already seen enough of Bibee to declare he's, on the same level? Better than? Maybe slightly worse.
The irony is that it's Gavin Williams who has the exact same delivery as Garrett Cole.